Flashes of fire tore across the eastern Pacific on October 28, 2025, as U.S. forces struck 3 suspected smuggling boats in coordinated succession, the largest single night of strikes so far, claiming 14 lives. For 2 months, U.S. forces have been executing back-to-back operations, targeting suspected traffickers and cartel-linked vessels from the Caribbean to the Pacific. The U.S. is altering its playbook. What used to be boardings and seizures has shifted to air strikes and targeted eliminations at sea. There are no warning shots, just flashes, burning hulls, and the wreckage left behind after 57 lives were lost at sea, with more likely to come. In all, 11 strikes so far, each one pushing the line a little further. These aren't normal Coast Guard procedures. These aren't even drug busts. This is an undeclared war at sea, one drawing legal fire in Washington and diplomatic outrage abroad. President Trump isn't backing down. In fact, he's amping up. He warned that anyone bringing drugs into the United States would be met with deadly force. Before we dive in, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive from Naval Brief. Before the first missile ever hit the water, the pressure was already building. By August 19th, Trump wasn't just talking tough, he was moving assets. 3 Navy destroyers, 3 amphibious assault ships, a fast attack submarine, and thousands of Marines and sailors pushed toward Venezuelan waters. Overhead, F-35s flew out of Puerto Rico, locking down the skies. Trump called it deterrence, not war. The mission was about saving American lives by stopping narcotics before they reached the U.S., claiming that more than 300,000 Americans had died from drugs last year. This year, he signed an order labeling major Latin American gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, giving the Pentagon more freedom to act under counter-narcotics authority. Traffickers were no longer just criminals, they were targets. And Trump unleashed the hunt, alongside Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Washington called it protection, Caracas called it provocation, and the Caribbean held its breath, waiting to see what would come next. It didn't have to wait long. On September 2nd, the Trump administration announced a U.S. aerial strike in the southern Caribbean targeting a vessel allegedly trafficking narcotics from Venezuela. Trump claimed 11 people were killed, labeling the members of the Trenda Aragua gang. Footage released showed a fast boat engulfed in fire and smoke. Officials said the strike took place in international waters as part of counter-narcotics efforts to stop the flow of drugs toward the U.S. But the details didn't all line up. There was no public disclosure of contraband recovered, no boarding or seizure footage, and the method of the strike, missile, drone, or something else, wasn't made clear. Within days, Venezuela's Interior Minister, Diosdado Cabello, publicly disputed the claims, saying none of the 11 were gang members. He demanded proof and accused Washington of branding fishermen as terrorists to justify military force. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro tried to cool the temperature, at least on paper. On September 6th, he sent a letter to Washington denouncing the strikes as unprovoked acts of war and denying any ties to Trenda Aragua. Washington didn't budge. They called it lies. The Caribbean didn't cool. It ignited. On September 15th, Trump announced a second strike. 3 more dead. Trump told reporters the boat carried big bags of cocaine and fentanyl. He called the targets narco-terrorists. But again, no hard evidence was shown to back it up. This wasn't reaction, it was intent. Caracas called it proof the U.S. had crossed from normal interdiction to outright military action. U.S. forces were no longer boarding and seizing. They were striking and sinking. Behind the scenes, tension spiked. On September 13th, Venezuela accused the USS Jason Dunham of intercepting and boarding a Venezuelan tuna vessel inside its economic waters. They called it a hostile incursion. Then on September 19th, Trump announced a third strike. Another boat destroyed and 3 more killed. Claiming intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking illicit narcotics. The president gave few details, claiming intelligence tied the boat to a smuggling route funneling narcotics toward the United States, a path he said was poisoning American lives. By late September, Maduro was furious. He declared a 90-day emergency, giving the military sweeping control of national security assets. He said Venezuela would not sit idle if foreign forces crossed another line. Trump signed a memorandum on October 2nd, and just like that, the rules changed. By labeling drug cartels as unlawful combatants, the administration loosened the Pentagon's leash. No more waiting for Coast Guard boardings. No more lengthy interdiction protocols. The military could now strike fast and strike first. Basically, it was a green light for what they'd already been doing. The ink wasn't even dry before the new order was tested. On October 3rd, less than 24 hours later, another fast boat, low on the water and moving through the southern Caribbean, was turned into a fireball. It became the fourth strike of the campaign. From Endide, Trump claimed the vessel was loaded with enough drugs to kill 25 to 50,000 people. The Pentagon released a grainy clip. The wreck burning, white packages drifting in the water like confetti, but no clear proof of what they were. No names, no public cargo footage, just a flash, an explosion, and another U.S. strike in the books. Caracas called it terrorism, another fabrication to justify military escalation. But this strike wasn't like the first three. It came fast, deliberate, as if the new order demanded proof of action. It wasn't hesitation. It was acceleration. Washington wasn't hitting pause. Just 5 days later, October 8th, the fight shifted from the water to the halls of Congress. A group of Senate Democrats pushed to rein in the strikes, demanding Trump seek formal authorization before unleashing any more firepower. The response? A party line block. Republicans struck the measure down, with only Rand Paul and Lisa Murkowski breaking ranks. That vote cleared the way for the administration to keep launching attacks without a single extra check from Capitol Hill. It wasn't a debate about if the strikes would continue. It was a signal that nothing would stop them. Less than a week later, on October 14th, the ocean burned again. The fifth strike took down another small vessel. Trump said the targets were narco-terrorist networks, and that intelligence confirmed it was hauling narcotics on a known trafficking route. This time, 6 people were killed. No survivors. No dramatic boarding scene for the cameras. Just another hit, another tally. Caracas condemned the attack, calling it proof the U.S. is waging an undeclared war at sea. Washington called it precision counter-narcotics. By this time, the waters were already running hot. But what happened on October 16th showed just how quickly the mission was expanding. That morning, Admiral Alvin Halsey, the commander overseeing all U.S. operations in the region, abruptly announced his early retirement. Southern Command tours typically last years. His decision to step down after less than one sent a quiet shiver through Washington. Inside defense circles, it was seen as a sign of friction, a reminder that these strikes weren't just controversial abroad. They were sparking tension at home too. Hours later, the sixth strike landed. A semi-submersible vessel moving low through Caribbean waters was hit and destroyed. 2 people were killed instantly, while 2 survivors were pulled from the sea. Trump later said the survivors would be sent to Ecuador and Colombia, not the United States. That raised even more eyebrows. No trial, no legal process, no congressional oversight. This wasn't the Coast Guard calling the shots anymore. It was the Pentagon, deciding who gets taken, who gets transferred, and who never comes back up on record. As the flames on the water faded, the mission kept rolling forward. Barely 24 hours later, Strike 7 on October 17th. The Pentagon said the vessel was tied to Colombia's National Liberation Army, the ELN, a Marxist guerrilla group long accused of trafficking drugs and operating under Venezuela's protection. All 3 people on board were killed. Washington released a short video clip again. Just another burst of light, another black silhouette disappearing in flames. Critics called it a strike first, prove later approach. By October 20th, the strikes weren't just echoing across the Caribbean. They were echoing in Washington and beyond. On Capitol Hill, Representative Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, called for formal hearings on Trump's boat strikes. He accused the administration of keeping Congress in the dark on what he called a campaign of lethal force launched with no real transparency. Other lawmakers, even a few on the Republican side, began quietly voicing concern that the strikes were drifting far beyond traditional counter-narcotics operations. That same day, the United Nations Human Rights Council issued a sharp rebuke, calling the U.S. campaign an extremely dangerous escalation and a violation of international law. The statement warned that the strikes could destabilize the region and set a precedent for undeclared conflicts at sea. Trump didn't flinch. Within hours of those warnings, planning for the 8th strike was already underway. On October 21st, the operation expanded to the eastern Pacific Ocean. Strike 8 hit a boat, killing 2 more people. The zone was expanding, so was the mission. For weeks, the Trump administration insisted these were targeted, surgical hits. But there was still no transparent evidence, no legal process, and no congressional authorization. Just one day after the 8th strike, U.S. forces hit again. On October 22nd, a small smuggling vessel moving through the eastern Pacific was locked, targeted, and obliterated. The Pentagon released a short, tightly edited clip, a boat cutting through the dark, a sudden flash, and then flames. Smoke billowed up against the night sky as the vessel cracked apart. When the camera pulled back, 3 men were gone, and several floating packages bobbed on the water. The kind officials said were narcotics. This wasn't happening in the Caribbean anymore. This was the 2nd strike in the Pacific, cementing the reality that this campaign was expanding fast. It came just 48 hours after international rebukes and congressional criticism, but Washington didn't blink. Trump and Hegseth pressed forward, making it clear the lines of engagement were widening, not closing. 2 days later, the explosions came closer to home. On October 24th, U.S. forces carried out another strike, the 10th confirmed attack of the campaign, back in the Caribbean waters near Venezuela. The Pentagon said the target was a fast-moving vessel linked to narcotics networks, and 6 people were killed. It underscored a shift back toward Venezuelan waters, even as other operations expanded west into the Pacific. Each hit now felt deliberate, paced, and relentless, tightening the pressure around Caracas and setting the stage for the triple strike just 4 days later. That October 28th assault, 3 boats struck in coordinated succession, marked the 11th confirmed strike in less than 2 months, and the 3rd in the eastern Pacific. 14 more lives lost. 1 survivor pulled from the water by the Mexican Navy. The death toll has now climbed to 57, and so has the tension. Only 3 survivors have been pulled from the wreckage, and the odds don't look good for the next cruise daring to make the run. President Trump says the results prove the approach is working, that narcotics flow into the U.S. has dropped to a fraction of last year's levels. He claims the strikes are making smugglers think twice about testing American waters, and warns that if they shift to land routes, they'll face the same force. Caracas calls the operation state terrorism. Mexico and Colombia have urged restraint, warning of instability spilling across their maritime borders. And even in Washington, lawmakers are asking how long the military can keep operating this way, without oversight or public proof of what's being hit. Trump insists it's not war, but the water tells a different story. 11 strikes, over 50 dead, and wreckage drifting from the Caribbean to the Pacific. The Caribbean isn't calming down. The Pacific's heating up. Anchor, this is Naval Brief. If you're all hands on deck with maritime conflict, naval power, and defense analysis, subscribe and stay mission ready for the next briefing.